Hello everyone, it's Graham from Lakeside, and this video is going to be about me making some new platforms. As you know, I've been utilising the old platforms from the previous layout just to give me the gauge between the two sets of tracks. I was happy with this kind of size, so I'm utilising those. But that's all they were there for. So now it's time to make the proper length platforms for this revised layout. So I shall use this as a kind of a template to begin with, and by that I mean the height. So what I've done here is that I've made these originally out of 18mm MDF, 18mm thick. And the size across the MDF itself, which is up into the white lines, is 93mm, but that of course will change depending on the layout you have. So that 93mm is purely for this layout. It's, you know, not for yours, but I mean it might be 93 for you, but it's certainly 93 for this layout. So what I did, I went to B&Q the other day and I got myself some more 18mm MDF, and I got them to cut, which they do free of charge, 4 strips from a 4x2 sheet of 18mm MDF, 4 strips 93mm wide, and that will give me enough to do both platforms. This platform is slightly shorter than that platform. Now in this particular instance, just by sheer luck, this platform here is exactly the right length for 2 pieces to be joined together without any cutting off either end. This one I'm going to have to cut slightly because this one is slightly shorter, and then I will just join the two together, and then that will give me the basic platform. What I then need to do is to take these Pico side edges off, which are on here, take these off and re-glue them to the new platform. And I should probably then spray the whole lot in grey primer, including these edges, because I should probably redo the weathering I've got on here, start afresh. Before I did that, before I did any of that, what I have done, I'll just pop that over there for a moment. I've got some of the Woodland Scenics track bed which I used, and I cut it in half, and I've glued it to the inner edge of all the track surrounding the platform. Now the reason why I've done that is that the 18mm depth of the MDF is just the right height for the track, but that's when the track is resting on ground level, i.e. just the bare baseboard. Now because I've raised the track up by the thickness of the track bed, I've also got to raise the platform by the same amount. So the easiest way to do that was to cut a length of the track bed in half and glue that to the extreme edges of where the platform will be. That way, if I get one of the new strips, when I place the new platform on here, it's perfect height, same as that. So that's one of the blanks which I've got. So I've got 3 others, and I will join them at the end here. And the way I'm going to join them is by using PVA glue, like I did with these. PVA glue And what I will also do is that with the dowels I've got left over, which I used for the lift up section, which are these, there's a male and a female dowel there, hopefully that's in focus. With a male and female dowel, I will put 2 of those in the ends here, and then likewise put the other half in the other end. That will give me a sufficient enough location for the 2 to stick together along with the PVA. Now it's not going to be terribly strong, because all it's going to be doing is sitting here, and I will screw them from underneath. The other time I screwed them through the top, which is not a good idea, because you've got to fill the hole, paint over it, etc. So this time I should be screwing up from underneath. So before I actually finally put the platform down, I should drill some holes appropriately along here, just so that I can screw them down. And they haven't got to be dead tight, just so that they literally just sit there. I won't bother gluing them. So it'll just literally be screwed down. So once they're in position, with the sides of these Pico cappings on, glued onto the side, I can then go back and ballast, put that down here, ballast along the edges up to the sides, both sides of the platform. And that is why I want to do this now, because there won't be anything in the way. I'll have clearance so that I can reach over both sides, here and here, and ballast relatively easily. That way I've then got the full go ahead to then paint the platform, put the lighting in, and buildings and people, etc. And that is about it. What I had to do as well was just to release some of the ballast on the edges here, just so that I could glue this strip down, which is no big deal, because I'm going to be ballasting here anyway. So that was just literally just knifed off, and it was a very easy job. So my first job really is to shape both ends along here, and the way to do that is, which you've seen many times on YouTube, well I assume you have anyway, many times on YouTube. You get a coach. Let me grab a coach down here. And all you do, you put a piece of paper down, you get a pencil, and you take the pencil to the side of the coach, and you draw or scribe a line with the pencil onto the paper. That gives you a very accurate curve for how the coach is going to go around that bend and clear the platform. If you were to just make the shape of this track here, if you were to replicate that on here, you would end up with the coach fouling, because as the coach comes round that bend, it's overlapping quite a bit down here. So that's the first thing to do, is to draw on paper my template, so that I can then transfer it onto here, and I can then scribe a line on here and then cut away. That will then give me an accurate profile for the coaches and the trains to go round and clear the platform without fouling. So I've got to do that on this end, so it's going to go up to about there ish, about there, and when I lay the other one down, like that, I can do the same at this end, which you're not seeing on camera, but if I show you, if I could rotate this down a bit, like that, so it's going to end up here, so I need to chop that bit off first and then do exactly the same process as what I did down the other end. Scribe my marking on here from the coach, shape that, and then check it obviously first that it's plenty of clearance, and then I can do the slope on the end of the platform, and then once all that's done, I can then buck that up like that, test it out, and if it's all working okay, I can then put the dowels in and glue it. So let's just raise this back up again. So there you can see the extent of the platform, and that is the shorter one. The other one, this side, is considerably longer. And when I was doing the running session the other day, I had the Santa Fe F7 going round, and it was on this track here. Sorry, you can't see this track, it was on this track, and the two F7s, the driver and the trailer, plus the 8 coaches, just fitted within that total length of the platform, which is tip top. That's just what I wanted. So the next stage now really is for me to do the scribing so that I can start making the curve on that end of the platform. So that's really an explanation of how I'm going to do it. The next bit is me actually doing it, which should be fun. So I will shut the camera down now and start the process, and I will show you what I mean as I go along. So at the end of the series of videos, you should be able to see the complete makeup of what, at least one, I won't do both platforms, you will see at least one platform up to grey primer stage. Okay, so bye for now, I'll speak to you later. Hello again everyone. Right, this is the first part of the construction for the platform, for platform 1 and 2. So what I've done is I've just laid down a sheet of paper over the track, and what I've done, I've got a coach and I've run it across the paper on both tracks. So what I need to do now is to just hold a pencil on the side of the coach like I described before, and that will then, once I then roll the coach along, will then mark a pencil line of the inside of both tracks for where the coach actually goes. So let's do that now. So I've got a flat carpenter's pencil is what they're called, and they use them in carpentry. So I've got that because it's flat and it will hold nicely against the coach, and also it's not too thick a distance between the edge of the lead and the side of the pencil itself. So if I hold that down, and run the coach backwards and forwards to give me the line. You can just make out hopefully the line there. Let me zoom in for you. You can hopefully see that pencil line there. And then if we do the same operation this side, Off the track. Let's do that again. I have made a score line there, so let's just see if it repeats it. Which it has. So now I can put that to one side. What I'm going to do now is lift the paper off the track and cut that profile out. I'll then be able to transfer that profile to the MDF blank. In theory, I should have an accurate profile for cutting the platform. That's one side. And this side should be, set that off. This side should be relatively straight. Assuming my track is straight, of course, which I think it is. Like so. So that now, let's take the zoom off. So that now gives me the profile of the platform, which will make sure that I've got clearance for the coach to go around. So if you pretend that that is the platform, pop this on. And looking down over it, that looks pretty good to me. In fact, if I just move that up a fraction, that's probably more accurate. Okay, so what I need to do now is to get my MDF blank down here. Place this over the top. There. Now I'm not too worried about that side. What's more important is this side here. So that gives me now the profile of the curve. So now all I need to do is to take that down onto the MDF. And then pencil that back in on the MDF. Like so. that now hopefully you can see that. So here you can now see the pencil profile of the platform edge. So all I've got to do now is to cut this away and then give it a trial fit, to be honest with you. Now bearing in mind I've got the edges, the Pico edges to fit on these here on both sides, but that's why I allowed the thickness of the pencil on the outside of the coach, because once those are added that should be just about right. Now of course what I can do, this is why I haven't ballasted in this area here. You're not seeing what I'm doing, let's take this out. That's why I haven't ballasted this area here, because what I can do is to position the platform in such a way backwards and forwards until I get this profile absolutely right to the track, and then I can go along and ballast up to the platform and to the edges either side. Okay, so I will now cut this out and come back to you. Right, hello again. Okay, so I've been down to the garage and I've now sawn this part off and just smoothed it over with some sandpaper, and first trial fit. Now I am expecting to do a little bit of adjustment on this, obviously for the first time, but let's hope I'm somewhere near it. Obviously when working with MDF, please wear a mask. That's vitally important, and plus obviously safety glasses too, but really important to wear a mask when working with MDF. Okay, it fits. I think it was about there-ish. Okay, so first glance it looks about right. I'm expecting the gap to increase at the end here because the track curves away, but that's not an issue, and that's the end of the platform anyway, so that's okay. So let's try a coach. Oh, perfect. Well, I'm happy with that. Now I know there looks a huge gap, but don't forget, as I keep saying, I've got to add on the Pico edging strips, these bits here, so they will take up a fair bit of gap there, plus obviously the other side too. But first initial look of that, I don't think I've got to do anything to it, to be honest. So let's try the other track just to make sure. That shouldn't be a problem at all. Indeed not. And I can move that fractionally over to this way a bit actually. Yeah, I'm happy with that as it stands. So that was an easy one. Okay, so what I've got to do now is to take off some of these edges here, especially these two here, which will give me the angle of the slope. So if I can take those off, because these are special end pieces which go on the platform, they are not straight, they are curved down, as you can see there, and so the join is there. So I just need to prise that one off, put it on the side here, and then that I can then get a mark for this side, do the same for the other one, scribe a line across, and then that will give me the correct length. Let's move the coach. The correct length to start the sawing to go down, and I will do this by hand with a handsaw. I don't use hardly any machine hand tools. I try my best to do everything by hand if I can. It's just the way I prefer to work, that's all. But obviously you can get your power saws out and stuff and do it that way, but as I say, I prefer to do it by hand. Okay, so I will get these off, measure the distance and saw that end off or down. Okay, so I'll speak to you later. Hello again. Right, this will be the final part for this part of the video. I'll call this 13A, I think, or something like that, and then there'll be 13B, which will be the finishing off of the platform itself. So what I've done, I've now shaped down this part of the platform, so it's now sloping down to virtually nothing here, and I've also taken off some of the Pico cappings here and glued those on and placed the platform in position to see the result, and this is the result. Now I might reposition that very slightly differently, but you can see that I've now got a good clearance, close enough but still a good clearance for coaches and external cylinders of steam locos to clear this section. And I know from my cost on the previous layout that I thought my platforms were all hunky-dory until I put a steamer through, and some of them, because of the width of the cylinders, were fouling the edge of the platform. I'm not going to make that mistake this time. So there is a fair bit of distance between, let's just move that up fractionally. You're going to get a creak from the tripod again. There is a fair bit of distance between the coach and the platform edge, but as I said, I've learnt my lesson. Although there might seem a lot, there isn't when you consider the cylinders from the steamers which go through. So I'm happy with that. So what I'll do now, I will carry on and put the other sides on here, and then I can call that part of the platform complete. I've then got to do the other half, same process, and then when I've done both halves, I will then come back and show you the joining of the two halves together, and then the finished item sprayed in grey primer. Okay, so thanks for watching, and bye for now.